When it comes to the computer to control the NMR spectrometer, you'll see that there are two pieces of software that we use on the computer. This piece of software is called NUTS, and the other piece of software that we can toggle to by clicking on the panel on the bottom is PNMR, and it's PNMR where we take the NMR spectrum, and it's NUTS where we work up the NMR spectrum. So going back into PNMR, there are settings on the NMR spectrometer, some of which you can change, most of which you should not change, but some that you certainly will try to change over the course of your year is the number of scans and the receiver gain. And you'll see that there is a 2-letter symbol for each particular control. So let's imagine that we want to change the receiver gain. The receiver gain control is RG, so we'll type RG, enter, and the software will prompt us to tell it what we would like the receiver gain to be. So let's say we want it to be 12, and we'll say OK. So now let's assume that we're ready to take an NMR spectrum. To initiate the NMR spectrum, since our sample is already in, we'll type ZG and enter. And a panel will come up to name the NMR spectrum, but we don't want to name the NMR spectrum. We're going to overwrite it. Every student who uses it will just overwrite the default file. So you can hit save, and it will run the NMR spectrum. We're only taking one scan, so we'll see the scan come up. So here's a crude version of the spectrum that we'll see, and we're going to accept it as it is right now. So now the spectrum is taken, so we want to toggle into NUTS. And following the instructions that are available to you next to the NMR spectrometer, we're going to hold down the control key and select F1. We'll get a dialog panel that comes up, and we're going to cancel that. If we say OK, it'll print it as it is, but I think we can do better than what it has as it is. So we're going to cancel that, and you see the NMR spectrum in front of you. Each of the peaks is integrated, but you can see in this particular example we've got two peaks that are integrated together. And this is one of the reasons why I think we can do better than to integrate them together. So I'm going to describe how you integrate those individually and even assign numbers to those peaks that make sense to you. So we're going to type ID and then C. That's integral display, and then clear. And you'll see that each of the individual integrals has been gotten rid of, and we get a continuous integral. You could use that too if you wanted to, but we're going to integrate each of the peaks by itself. So find a peak that you want to integrate, and we're going to double click on the left, and you see that a new cursor comes up, and then single click on the right. We're going to do that for each of the peaks that we want to integrate together. So double click on the left, single click on the right. So now each of the peaks that we've decided belong together, we've integrated individually. Now you can do even better than that, and you can left click and hold on one of the peaks and type V as in Victor, and we get a chance to give it any value that we want. Now if you look at that, it's a triplet, and there's a quartet over here, so I'm going to believe that's an ethyl group, and if that's true, then this triplet ought to integrate for 3. So I'm going to give it a value of 3 and hit OK, and then all of the integrations will be compared to that value. So this is our 3. This turns out to be 2.9, so it's pretty obvious what that is. 1.96, pretty obvious what that is. 0.96 and 0.94. At this point you can hit enter. You're out of the integral mode, but the integrals stay, and we can print. So file and print, and we're done with our NMR spectrum.